And then after your accident, how did you deal with your change of identity, or how did you come to terms with a changed self-esteem?
Well, you can imagine when your whole life is revolved around doing physical things, and especially at that age when naturally things are fairly physical. You're growing up. You're 15 years old. You're coming to explore new dimensions within yourself. You're an adolescent, and you're trying to develop social skills and interaction and confidence. And all of a sudden, in a split second, you have an accident, and all that's taken away from you. You have to really, really think deeply and heartily about putting things back in perspective. You do a lot of quick growing up. It wasn't easy. I tell you, I can remember June 27th was the day that I had my accident in 1973. And I was so scared, not being able to feel your legs, having them turn to jelly, the uncertainty of what was going to happen to you after that. And definitely having totally no exposure or experience to disability, coming from a town that was, quite ignorant about disability and its consequences. And so all I knew is that I couldn't use my legs, and if I was going to end up that way for the rest of my life, I'd probably be a vegetable or end up being in a hospital or have very little hope or outlook. So it was a real education process for me.
And was your high school wheelchair accessible?
I don't think there was very much about Williams Lake that was accessible at that time. There were 14 stairs going up into my parents' living room, and 12 stairs going down to the basement, and four or five going to the basement from the outside and through the garage, and about 8 from the back door. And the school was, the only thing about the school that was accessible was a gymnasium. There were stairs, at various levels, and there were portables and everything. And I was very fortunate, though, because of the level of my disability. And through a lot of hard work and perseverance, I was able to walk on crutches and braces or hop. And so coming back to Williams Lake and realizing how many obstacles really were standing in my way, it really forced me to give a little bit more and to work as hard as I could to try to become as independent in brace walking, so that I could manage and negotiate those stairs as best I could.
Was there an element of vanity to that too?
Definitely. Trying to deal with the change in your body image, seeing your legs. I was 165 pounds at the age of 15, and solid muscle, and most of it was in my legs. And to see them waste away, rapidly in a period of 3 or 4 months, it's really tough to deal with. And so part of it was, if I could stand up, it was denying the sense of being totally disabled. At least, the thought and the symbol at that time of being in a wheelchair was, you have the Ironside kind of stigma where, sure, he was quite a great mind and a crafty fellow, but he was always being pushed around by people, and he was totally dependent on others. And so I guess I had that stigma, and I thought as long as I could stand up, I could perhaps breach some of that and get away from that within myself. And I realized, though, over time that was pretty foolish, but it was a process of adjustment. It was a process of coming to terms with your disability, coming to realize that, sure, brace walking was practical for certain circumstances, but 90% of the time it was probably more appropriate to be in a wheelchair because it was quicker, more functional. You can imagine what it would be trying to bend down when you're on crutches and braces and pick your clothes up after you and do your laundry and make your bed. It was almost impossible. So there are a lot of practical things about being in a wheelchair that were much more important than worrying about vanity and standing up.
But for all that mattered to you, the sports, did you get involved with sports again in high school right away?
Well, I continued doing sport even in the rehab center. They'd stand me up on a standing table and put me up to the foul line, and I'd keep shooting baskets. And my old badminton partner, Les T-Mark, came down and we whacked the bird around in the gymnasium during the rehab center. And when I went back to Williams Lake, there wasn't a lot of option. I wasn't very aware of the fact that there was any formal wheelchair sport or disabled sport. And so, my desire was just to do whatever I could, when and where I could. And we had a table tennis, ping pong table downstairs, and so we'd play table tennis. And it was a sport that I could participate with my brother and my father, and still do quite well, cover most of the table, either standing on my braces or down low in the chair. I did a lot of weights just to keep trying to build myself up. And after a while, Bob Redford, who was a good friend of mine and also was my volleyball coach before my accident, he sort of kept encouraging me to come back to the gym. And I'll never forget the first day I came back into the gym. It was about 6 or 7 months after the accident. And here were the guys that just a short period of time ago I'd been competing with on the same team. And I came back in and I would look at them, and I just had this really terrible knot, sort of developed in the pit of my stomach, because I mean, here I was facing the reality that I was never going to be able to, compete with them again, and that was tough to deal with. There were times when I wanted to just take right off and leave the gym and never come back again. But Bob kept encouraging me to get back into it and to participate as a manager, as a coach, an assistant coach, a trainer. And with his encouragement and support, I was able to get more active in a formal sense in sport, because by teaching and coaching people, I realized as well that I could actually maneuver the wheelchair, and I could volley and hit the ball and serve and do pretty well most of the things except jump and spike that were essential in the game, and realized that I still could fulfill a lot of my athletic talent.